What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we will be extending on the series known as the Deep Dive, where we take a look at a highlighted Pokemon in Pokemon Go and talk about it from a raid perspective. PvP, should you unlock that secondary charge move, should you power it up, and then of course taking a look at its future value. The goal behind this is to provide you as much information as possible so that you can focus your resources accordingly. Hopefully you do enjoy this video because we have a special guest today, and that is Rayquaza. Now, unfortunately, we ended up getting some news about a Rayquaza weekend, and the shiny was not available. But to be honest, if we're looking at it from the future perspective, this could actually be a good thing because we may not only get a shiny in the next release, we could also end up getting a new exclusive move, and it could actually propel Rayquaza even further into its dominance. So I'm very excited about that. But anyways, if this video is helpful to you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Rayquaza with a max AP of 3,835. Rayquaza is a dual type of dragon and flying type. If we take a look at the stats, you will see its attack stat is its best stat at 284, ranked out at 8th in Pokemon Go. Its worst stat being its defense, but if you check out the overall ranking, it does retain an overall ranking of 32nd in Pokemon Go. When you take a look at the weaknesses and resistances, you will see a total of 4 weaknesses: Dragon, Fairy, Ice, and Rock. And then it of course has a double weakness to ice. So for all of you out there who are interested in raiding a Rayquaza, that kind of explains why you have so many ice type attackers as some of the best options available, as you will see with this top 6. But other than that, we can go ahead and dive into the moveset because it's definitely an interesting point to talk about. So as far as the moveset is concerned, we have Dragon Tail, Air Slash, Outrage, Aerial Ace, and then Ancient Power. The reason why this is so interesting is because it has some flexibility. You could go with it as a double dragon type attacker. You could go with it as a double flying type attacker. And then you also have the move Ancient Power, which is interesting for PvP because Ancient Power has the chance of raising your stats. It's like a 10% chance to be able to do it, but that's definitely interesting. So I feel like it's going to have some usability from rating perspective, also PvP. So we'll definitely split that up and kind of talk about it one by one. But the movesets are definitely something to consider moving forward. But let's go ahead and take a look at Rayquaza from a raid perspective. I have to say, when you are talking about it from a just dragon type attacker, it absolutely dominates. If we go ahead and check out a couple of simulations that I ran where we're using Giratina or Latios, there is something in common between the both of them. And that's simply that Rayquaza retains that #1 position. But many of you know that Rayquaza is one of the best dragon type attackers, but something that I was personally interested in was taking a look at it as a flying type attacker. And I thought of the most absolutely perfect Pokemon to take a look at, and that's Breloom. Because of it being a grass as well as a fighting type, it is double weak to a flying type. So I said, you know what, it's Rayquaza's chance to shine in this case. Although it didn't necessarily take the #1 spot, it actually was still pretty good. So this is something to consider. The most unfortunate thing about this is that we can't use 2 different quick moves at this point in time. So that would mean that you'd have to potentially switch it back and forth. Is it worth it to actually switch over to the flying type moveset? For me personally, I think it's a no from the rating perspective. It clearly dominates as a dragon type attacker, and as far as unlocking a secondary charge move, you may want to actually save that for PvP. So when we talk about Rayquaza from a PvP perspective, I said that I wanted to save the conversation for the secondary charge move based on PvP. And that's simply because if you check out the results in the Masters League, Rayquaza does crack into the top 24, but as you will see with the moveset, it actually performs very well with Ancient Power. So something that I'm considering doing, and that I would want to pass off to you, is if you were interested in using Rayquaza for PvP as well as using it as just a typical dragon type attacker, it might be smart to just use Dragon Tail, Outrage, and then unlock it and try to rotate over to Ancient Power. But that's just kind of my preference. I don't personally want to push people to unlock secondary charge moves on legendary Pokemon. I want you to kind of take that decision to heart because it does cost 100,000 Stardust and it does cost 100 candies. So that's definitely up to you. I bet some people have definitely done that, but for me personally, that's what I would do. But other than that, is Rayquaza worth powering up? Absolutely. Absolutely. As a dragon type attacker, it really doesn't have too much competition, and it's mostly because of its attack stat. But yes, I'm personally very excited about that. I can't wait to do the Rayquaza weekend, and hopefully I'll get myself a high IV one, and you can bet I'll definitely be powering it up. So yeah, for me personally, Rayquaza is definitely worth powering up. But the last thing that I wanted to take a look at is the future value of Rayquaza. It's not very often that you have a very dominant Pokemon currently in the game, but it actually possesses potential to do even better in the future. And for Rayquaza, it really comes down to two different reasons. The one is that it doesn't have its signature move. If its signature move ends up being better than its current moveset, it could actually become better, but of course we don't know what that will be like until it gets released into the game, and then of course get some numbers associated to it. But then the other thing is taking a look at Rayquaza from a Mega perspective. It does have a Mega evolution available, and if that ends up happening, you can absolutely say lights out. Rayquaza will definitely remain the #1 from the Dragon type perspective if Megas get put in. I definitely just see Rayquaza having the potential to just do even better in the future without much threat of it doing worse. So definitely keep that in mind. I'm absolutely giving a stamp of approval for this Pokemon. But I definitely want to know what you think. What are your thoughts about Rayquaza? Do you recommend powering it up? Are you excited about doing the Rayquaza raid week? Go ahead and let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate this support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.